This is the Jupiter Retrograde 2022 outlook. And Jupiter will be retrograde starting on July 28th of 2022 and will remain there until November 23rd, 2022. In October, on the 27th, Jupiter will flip back into the sign of Pisces. So let's look at the chart for Jupiter retrograde on July 28th. Now we've got Jupiter station, well, now retrograde at 8 degrees and 43 minutes of Aries. And Aries is a pioneer, it is the go-getter. Jupiter is in a fire sign. Aries rules the first house. So Jupiter in Aries is great for starting new ventures and really putting our best foot forward and really letting the world know what we are about. And Jupiter is very enthusiastic and zestful in the sign of Aries. However, in the retrograde phase, Jupiter is about, and in any sign, is about our inward search. It is about what gives us meaning. And with Jupiter in the first sign of Aries connected with the first house, we will have an inward search and discover a whole wealth of inner insights, inner wisdom, and this, during this retrograde phase, is what will give us a personal satisfaction to what is very important to us. And of course, Jupiter ruling the ninth house is about philosophy, spirituality, religion. And with the first house connection with Aries, our enthusiasm, our positivity, of which Jupiter and Aries represents, will turn inward. But this is a great time to do some serious soul searching. Looking at the chart for Jupiter and Aries, we have the sun and the moon conjunct in Leo. So this would have to be a new moon, which is very positive with enthusiastic, fiery Jupiter in Aries. And with this beautiful positive trine and in Leo, our thoughts will turn to the grandiose. Leo likes attention. Leo, somewhat like Aries, likes to be number one. And because Leo is connected with the fifth house, it's about creativity. And Jupiter is about generosity. So we'll be seeing many people now expressing themselves and being generous with their creativity. And it's going to be our creativity that brings prosperity. But although there will be much in the way of creativity right now, and fifth house matters, Leo is also very big-hearted. So this is going to be a time of giving, not just expressing ourselves creatively, but Leo has a big heart. And with the trine to Jupiter, there's going to be much in the way of giving. Giving to organizations, giving to charities, giving to friends, a lot with enthusiasm for kindness. But Also, attention. And fifth house matters. What else does the fifth house connect with but children? Yes, creativity. There's a lot with speculation or speculative ventures. This may be known now. Certain connections with possible corporations or organizations that may seem speculative. And then on the other hand, you've got this theme with businesses being very generous and very giving during the course of this retrograde Jupiter. And Mercury in Leo likes to broadcast its needs and desires. And with a forceful, positive outlook. Uh, the fifth house is of ventures and fun. And with this Leo emphasis and the sun and moon trining Jupiter during this time, believe it or not, there may be much in the way of knowledge about, well, fun, vacations, and anything that represents gambling and having fun and this type of fifth house theme. But we do have this Leo uh, moon sun conjunction, and although it is very positive and very bright with Jupiter in Aries, we also have the Mercury in Leo making a square off T square to Saturn in Aquarius retrograde and with the Mars Uranus North Node in Taurus. So, although we're going to feel in a very happy, zestful time, very generous, very giving in matters of children, a lot emphasized with fun and vacations, possibly gambling, speculation, and a whole lot of fun with creativity. Well, then in the background, we have this connection with Mars, Uranus, and the North Node. And this is a time we will have to watch out for a breakdown in communications. Saturn is with Aquarius retrograde. And of course, Aquarius is connected with the people, the collective, our humanity. And now we've got Saturn retrograde squaring off with the bully of Mars, Uranus, and the North Node with Mercury in Leo. There could be some communication breakdowns during this phase of retrograde Jupiter. We will feel we are so imbued with so much positivity and luck and feeling that our opinions are extremely meaningful, and we are doing this inward enthusiastic Jupiter in Aries, enthusiastic inward search about what is the meaning of our opinions, our personal style, because it's connected with the first house, and really broadcasting our personal desires, that things may become a little crazy with this T square in fixed signs. And it's great to be enthusiastic for a cause which is going to be very eminent at this particular time during Jupiter's retrograde phase. But the issue is becoming too fixed, too stubborn, in our philosophies during retrograde Jupiter's phase. So the trick here is to become more objective and less with bullying. And as always, this can include social media. It's not just about in public and organizations and groups of people in opposition or conflict. It's also about social media, especially since Mercury is the ruler of the third house and the communicator. It is the written and the spoken word. And there are going to be probable upsetments on social media. And what else? Technology. It is a time, yes, there could be hacking. And with Saturn, issues with authorities and governments. Because, well, Jupiter's feeling very lucky and enthusiastic, like nothing can go wrong during this phase of retrograde. However, once Jupiter flips back to Pisces the end of October, and that will connect up with Neptune with Pisces, well, folks, then we will start to see some of the conflict go from much in the way of difficulties of communication, chaos, and so on, bullying to compassion. But we will have to learn the lessons of this T-square between Saturn retrograde, Mars Uranus North Node, and Mercury in Leo. And some of these lessons, folks, may be a bit difficult to say the least, especially since Saturn retrograde at that in Aquarius is applying a square off to Mars in Taurus, and that can be rather explosive. The energy comes about explosive and very unpredictable, and there's going to be a lot of this theme at this time. Uh, Explosivity, unpredictable nature, uh, possible, well, fights, and yes, there could be a propensity of violence because of this square off with Mercury, Saturn, and Mars. And it's fixed. So we are not apt to change our minds and our attitudes about what we are trying to accomplish. And this could be very difficult. And wherever this square off is in your personal birth chart is of highest importance. Hopefully, once Jupiter turns retrograde the end of October into Pisces, yes, we will see more in the way of compassion, especially since Jupiter is the old ruler of Pisces. And then you've got the new ruler, Neptune, but retrograde in Pisces. So, with both Jupiter, old ruler, for a brief time hooking up with Neptune retrograde in Pisces, what could this mean? Well, what does Pisces rule? Pisces is about our water or issues with our water. Also, Pisces rules oil, and that is gas, oil, our oceans, minerals, fish, or ocean water life. And this connecting with Jupiter retrograde, well, the positive highest side of Pisces is about compassion, empathy, and sympathy. But Pisces is a double-edged sword. It will be now about compassion, possibly cleaning up our waterways, our oceans, because there are going to be issues with both Jupiter and Neptune retrograde with water, whether it is natural disasters or issues otherwise, with the lack of water or problems with our oceans, water in general. And we can take the high road with this connection of Jupiter retrograde with Neptune for the brief time, the end of 2022, and we will clean up our oceans, clean up our water, and do something about the issues of such. Even minerals, oil, gas is going to be an issue. Or the other side of Pisces is the deceiver and the confuser. So we may be confused as if we don't know who is being honest or not being honest at this time. And there's going to be a lot of this going around when Jupiter hits Pisces. Who's telling the truth? This can be in any area, worldwide, personally, and wherever this conjunction is in your birth chart is, of course, very important. So don't always believe what you hear at this time with Jupiter and Neptune meeting up in Pisces. Do be very cautious, but this is going to be the chatter, so to speak. Who's right? Who's wrong? Who can we believe? Secrets coming out now because we've got this Jupiter Neptune meetup. And this is highly, very caring and compassionate, or the downside is very deceptive and confusing. Nonetheless, because of this water element, there may also be issues with 12th house concerns with Jupiter hooking up with Neptune there, such as medicine, medical. Yes, this could be some concerns connected with health, well-being, and or health care. Nonetheless, it will be about mysteries of the known and unknown. And because we're talking the past here with Pisces, 12th house rules history as well. Yes, somewhat like Cancer, which, by the way, Venus will be in Cancer. So this will only bring emphasis with Neptune and Jupiter at that time in Pisces. Don't be surprised if there is some type of antiquities, of finds and history that become known now. There could be some really amazing historical documents that are found or discussed, a lot with history and unearthed information never before known. This is going to become a bit of a center of attention at the end of the year with both Jupiter and Neptune retrograde in Pisces. And as aforementioned, Pisces is connected with minerals. So who knows? Maybe there could be some finds connected with gold or silver, but certainly this will be of importance. Gold, silver, minerals at the time, especially around November, December of 2022. So, folks, this is the time, very likely, collect the silver and the gold, collect those minerals, because while Jupiter and Neptune are in Pisces, there may be a shortage or some issues with such. So, this is going to be the atmosphere at the time of Jupiter retrograde phase, and we do have Venus, the planet of love and affection, in Cancer. So, with this conflict going on with these T squares, the answer, folks, is going to be about what means the most to you regarding home and family, your personal space, those closest to you. And especially, however, there is going to be a square off between retrograde Jupiter and Venus, the planet of love, uh, in Cancer. And whenever you have a square between Jupiter, especially, and Venus in Cancer, generally, that means that, and especially what area of your personal birth chart this is located, that Jupiter and Venus like to do everything in a big manner, especially when it connects up with Jupiter. So, issues of home and family may be paramount now, possibly the real estate market. This is a time that there may be some really good deals with real estate because during the reign of Jupiter retrograde, uh, there is going to be either a downturn with the real estate market or a possibility of a surplus, generous Jupiter, of real estate available. And this will come to the fore. So it will be interesting to see where Venus, the ruler with Cancer, Venus, the ruler of Taurus and Libra, meets up with home loving fourth house rulership of Cancer. But all fourth house connections will be of highlight. Real estate, home, family. We're going to hear a lot about flipping of real estate and a lot of money going around connected with the real estate market, investing. Uh, Food may be an issue because Cancer is connected with food. The other issues are going to be children, parenting, uh, and love, affection, the family, all highlighted issues that will receive much attention now, but equally much affection with Venus there in Cancer. And especially since Venus will make a beautiful sextile Earth and water to this very rough Mars Uranus North Node in Taurus. So during this time of Jupiter retrograde, it's about really reaching out to each other and being genuine compassion, especially when Jupiter and Saturn are both in Pisces. That will somewhat tame this very difficult Taurus, Mercury in Leo, Saturn Aquarius time of conflict and upheaval. It's about connecting with home, family, and healing because Cancer is a water sign. Neptune is a water sign. And this is important to have sympathy, foresight, kindness, caring, Cancer. That will be the healing balm during retrograde Jupiter's phase. So, at first, with Jupiter retrograde in Aries early on in July until the end of October, we are going to feel more fiery in nature, very enthusiastic to what? Look inward, to our search inward and discover what means most to us about our personal style, about who we are, because we're talking Aries rules the first house, and really putting our best foot forward towards our ventures. And if this indeed creates happiness and personal satisfaction in our life, once Jupiter flips back into the 12th house, we may feel a little less fiery, but nonetheless have an inward search to discover what is most meaningful to us. However, now in Pisces, it's going to be about 12th house, about caring and compassion during the time of Jupiter's retrograde phase. And very quickly, let's go through the rising sign and how this is going to affect us. So, with the Aries rising individuals, Jupiter will be in your first house. So that only highlights this Jupiter reflecting on who you are and what makes you happy, and your personal search, your personal style, how you approach the world and everyone around you. That will be very important. You may change your style, maybe going back into the past and going back to certain ways or styles, personal a personal time in your life that made you happy, and you want to incorporate that now in your life while Jupiter is retrograde over your first house. That will be important to you. And of course, with Aries, with enthusiasm and zest. And then when Jupiter goes back into your 12th house area, Aries, the end of October, then Aries, it's going to be about your reflection inward to what really gives you the most peace of mind in your life. What? Psychologically, because the 12th house is connected with the psychological. So don't be surprised, Aries rising. Once Jupiter flips back into Pisces, you may look into counseling and, of course, health care, perhaps healing. And that's physical healing, it is emotional healing. All forms of healing will be important to you during those 2 months between October and, 1 month between October and November with Jupiter in Pisces. Now, Taurus rising individuals, you will have first off Jupiter for you, Taurus rising, in your 12th house. So you're starting off with your inward search connected with healing, and your enthusiasm, Jupiter and Aries, will be connected with 12th house concerns. Perhaps you will be very enthusiastic or zestfully giving to others. And that's not just charities. I mean, it could be family, friends. Maybe you're going to be the person people are going to look to, Taurus rising, to help individuals out with their issues. And yes, that includes you, Taurus. It's a time for reflection of certain philosophies that you may have, the meaning of life, and healing, and all forms of healing. This is about the metaphysical or the paranormal, may have a certain fascination for you right now, Taurus. And with Taurus rising, especially when Jupiter goes into your 11th house from Jupiter and Aries in your 12th to your 11th, it'll be about having compassion for friends, for family, but more than that, it's about having compassion for people that you don't even know. Again, we bring up that thing with charities, but it may be connected with social media, as 11th house is connected with friends and social media groups. Maybe you will be a group sympathizer or lend your insights and knowledge to particular groups, social media, personally, what have you. But group thought and connections are going to be highlighted, and that's where your compassion is going to be. Now, with Gemini on the ascendant, Gemini, your first of all, your Jupiter is going to be in your 11th house. It starts off in your 11th. So, starting off during July 28th, Jupiter retrograde until the end of October, Gemini, Aries is going to be about enthusiasm for your groups, your friends. Hey, who knows? Maybe your inward search is about placing your enthusiasm towards social media, or maybe, who knows, a YouTube account, and connecting up with groups, organizations, friends, and acquaintances. And because it's a retrograde, you may have friends now that turn to you for all sources of help and kindness, sympathy, and that could be encouraging them with that enthusiastic Jupiter retrograde in Aries. That could be encouraging them in all facets of their life personally. You are showing yourself to be a very kind friend. And then for you, Gemini rising, then Jupiter will flip back from your 11th house to your 10th house. And then you're going to have a lot of sympathy for your career because we've got Jupiter in Pisces on the 10th house. So your inward search will be about, am I in the right career? Do I want to do something different? You may be going a whole course, all these years of action in one area of your life or your job, and now you're thinking and you're contemplating. Your inward search will be about, are you on the right path? What enlightens you? And of course, Jupiter retrograde is going to be at the top of your chart, whether it's on your midheaven or it's just in your 10th house. And so this is the time for you, Gemini rising, to really give long-term thought to your career goals, whatever that will be, to make you happy. Then we've got Cancer rising. Okay, so Cancer. So we've got Cancer. Your Jupiter for you is, let me see here, is going to be, we've got Cancer. Then we've got I believe it's going to be in your 10th house. Going to have a little thought there for a minute. I have to keep track of these rotating Jupiter time right now. But for you, Jupiter is going to be at first Cancer rising in your 10th house. And so you start off Cancer rising with your enthusiasm directed to your career goals. And somewhat like Gemini rising, your inward search is going to be about your goals, your ambitions, your aims. Are you on the right path? And Jupiter in this house, and no matter what house it is in, always brings opportunities. So don't be surprised, Cancer rising now, if you suddenly receive a job or career goal from the past. And this is something you want to get back into. And you will be zestfully, Jupiter and Aries, pursuing this old job or career of what you had prior. So a lot with the past is going to reconnect with you, Cancer rising, with the 10th house as Jupiter and Aries. Then Jupiter will flip back to your 9th house, Cancer rising. And for you, Cancer rising, the 9th house will then be in Pisces. Your sympathies and your compassion will be about learning because the 9th house is about higher mind learning. This is the time you also may acquaint yourself with people that are somewhat of teachers or gurus, or follow people, who knows, on the internet that you really admire, where you can gain a lot of wisdom, and that will hold your sympathies, so to speak. But it's also a good time to connect with different cultures and how that connects with your inward search, and meeting or communicating or researching individuals from different lands and cultures, beliefs, philosophies, opinions. And there's that connection with research, education, and so on and so forth. And this will bring a lot of internal insights and happiness to you. Okay, now we switch to Leo rising. And Leo, for you, you start off with Jupiter on your 9th house. So your enthusiasm and focus is going to be, yes, to start off between July 28th to before the retrograde time of Jupiter going back into Pisces, will be about finding out about different cultures. Maybe you might even take up a language because you're going to have a lot of enthusiasm, and your inward search is going to be about philosophy and a lot of zest for the 9th house matters, going back to school. And this is going to be something, who knows, maybe you might even decide to connect with travel. Who knows? Get into the travel business somehow. And this is going to be something that really brings you a lot of joy. Maybe you will go back to school as well, Leo rising, especially now for you Leos, with this connection with the sun and moon in Leo, Mercury in Leo during this uh, retrograde time. So, especially Leo rising, this is going to be a highlight for you and a very creative time as well, especially with the sun moon making a trine to Jupiter retrograde. So, all 9th areas to start off are going to be just awesome. Then we've got Jupiter flipping back into Pisces in your 8th house. Leo rising, what is 8th house? 8th house is deep. It's research, but more an inward research. And you may want to change certain aspects of your life because it's about transformation. That's what the 8th house is about. And especially when Jupiter goes into Pisces, my goodness, you may feel like you want to transform your life for whatever reason. I mean, it could be for a variety of reasons. Maybe you feel like you've gone down the wrong path and you want to find happiness in other aspects of your life. So, your inward search will involve what could transform or make you happy connected with the 8th house. And the 8th house is one of occult or spirituality, similar to the 9th house and similar to the 12th house. So who knows? Maybe you may get involved with something connected with meditation or yoga. Or who knows? You may discover astrology now, Leo rising. Okay, so this is very deep, and who knows? Maybe you will discover the meaning of life because the 8th house is about beginnings, it's about endings, it's about intimacy. It's a very deep and very personal place for you now, Leo rising. Then, of course, we move on to Virgo rising. And Virgo, you start off with the eighth house with Aries there. And for you, your enthusiasm and desire to begin, the interests of the eighth house will be very prominent for you, Virgo rising. Because right now, Virgo, to start off with this retrograde Jupiter phase on July 28th until the end of October, your enthusiasm will be connected with perhaps the occult. Maybe you, Virgo, are going to look into maybe reading the tarot, astrology, meditation, and so on. And who knows, maybe you are going to be called upon, Virgo rising, to oversee a trust, or you may make a trust right now. And because eighth house is so deep, you may want to discover the meaning of life, and so on and so forth, and intimacy and life after life, so to speak, and just getting really deep with those that are closest to you. Then, Virgo rising, we've got Jupiter flipping back into your seventh house. And of course, seventh house is about relationships. So, your compassion and your empathy, your sympathy, Virgo rising, is going to be connected with relationships. All kinds of relationships, whether it's business, and that can include legal, and that's marriage relationships. And because Jupiter, even though it is retrograde there, your inward search may be of a particular relationship and how this will create happiness in your life. And you may have an inward search about a particular relationship. Is this somebody that is bringing you happiness? Do you want to move forward with this person? So this is going to be decision time for you with all relationships. And the seventh house rules legalities. And with Jupiter, prosperous Jupiter in Pisces, there may be a legal issue that's been pending or looming over you, or something coming back from the past that you may want to research and discover. Who knows? Maybe you may get involved with something legally that will have a positive outcome, especially when Jupiter goes direct. So, this is a time of looking into all legal matters and seeing, especially with Jupiter, how legalities can benefit you and all relationships, even before the public, but especially that which are personal relationships, Virgo rising. Then we've got Libra rising. And with a Libra rising, Libra on the first house is about Jupiter starting off in your seventh house. And of course, Libra, you can relate to all relationships because you rule the seventh house. And then we're going to have Jupiter retrograde transiting your seventh house of relationships. So your enthusiasm and desire for new ventures is going to be connected with the seventh house. And Libra, because you are connected with the seventh house, you are very aware of the dynamic of relationships. And because you may be possibly in a serious relationship right now, you may decide to take this relationship to the next level. It might be about marriage or commitment for you, and how that creates a personal happiness with you and this individual. And also, Jupiter is about bringing new people into your life. And Jupiter is the ninth house, so you may meet a variety of different types of people and have many opportunities for relationships with Jupiter, even in its retrograde phase in your seventh house. Then for you, Libra rising, you will then have Jupiter then flips back into your sixth house. And the sixth house, your inward search now, Libra rising, when Jupiter flips back into Pisces, will be about a focus on your work and health or health care. But with Jupiter, even in its retrograde phase, you may have had some health issues, Libra rising, that you feel now cannot be ignored. You need to take care of them, especially with Jupiter once it goes into Pisces retrograde, because Pisces is about health care, it's about healing. So, this is the time you may have some thoughts about taking care of what needs to be healed physically. And that could be mentally, physically, emotionally, and so on. It could include diet or just looking into certain forms of health care, insurance. But what else does the sixth house rule, Libra rising? But the sixth house is of work, it's about our job. So you may feel like a particular job now is really not what you want. And because Jupiter is going to be retrograde in Pisces, you may decide that you want to go back to a job or possibly a career that you had years ago. And you may find now that that job that you had way back when is now something that you want to pursue and could mean a new career for you. Okay, so then we move on to Scorpio rising. And Scorpio, you will have, of course, Scorpio in the first house, Taurus on the seventh house. Now, you're going to start off Scorpio with Jupiter in your sixth house. And for you to start off with Scorpio, Jupiter in your sixth house is about enthusiasm for your job, your career. And similar to Libra rising, you may have a job that comes back to you from the past that you may feel that gives you greater fulfillment. And also, the sixth house, Scorpio rising, is of pets. You may get a new pet right now that gives you immense happiness. And it's about applying your enthusiasm towards diet and exercise. Maybe you'll join the gym or start a new exercise regime, diet, health. All of this is going to be very prominent for you, Scorpio rising. And of course, when Jupiter flips back into your fifth house, your inward search and your compassion will be about children. That's either children or pregnancies. You're going to discover what really gives you that inward happiness connected with the fifth house. Also, it's a time of speculation and it's a time of fun, and you may feel like maybe you've been kind of putting off having fun or going on certain vacations, just kind of kicking back a little bit. And you may find while Jupiter goes retrograde back into Pisces the end of October, that this is a focus for you now because you want fulfillment. And this is the time for you to just kind of finally take it easy. And the fifth house is very creative and with very generous Jupiter when it flips back into your fifth house, Scorpio rising. This is a time when you may decide to be very creative. Maybe you're going to take up crafts or something or a musical instrument, but you will find your inward search with Jupiter and Pisces. Scorpio rising is connected with new forms of creativity. Then we've got Sagittarius rising. And first off for you, Sagittarius rising will be Jupiter in enthusiastic Aries in your fifth house. And you start off with Jupiter connected with speculation, gambling, fun, and with Jupiter in the fifth house, starting off the end of July until the end of October, you're going to be all about taking the vacation that you've wanted to take. Yes, it's going to be about fun for you. And the fifth house is about love and romance. Don't be surprised, especially with big hearted, generous Jupiter, now Sagittarius rising, that you've got a lot of opportunities, especially single Sagittarians, that you may want to get out and date, mingle with new people. But certainly, this is a very social time for you, whether you're single, whether you are in a relationship right now. And that's where much of your zest will be, and much of your zest as well, Sagittarius, into your creativity. Add a little razzle dazzle and sparkle, especially Sagittarius. You're connecting up with this Leo stellium right now with the enthusiastic retrograde Jupiter. So your inward connection will be about, can maybe taking up that musical instrument give you some happiness. Then we've got Jupiter flipping back into your fourth house, Sagittarius rising. And what is the fourth house? The fourth house is about home and family. And right now, when you have Jupiter flipping back into Pisces, into your fourth house, Sagittarius, who knows? Maybe you might get into flipping houses or real estate. And with generous Jupiter there, even retrograde, you may find you may be able to make quite a bit of money. And of course, retrograde is about the past, retro. So, this is a time where you will want to possibly express some of your compassion with Jupiter retrograde and compassionate Pisces towards your family. And you may feel that it's a time to go back into the past, retrograde Jupiter, to discover your history, your family history, connecting or communicating with family. Maybe there were some issues there. It's a time of repair, retrograde Jupiter in Pisces, or renovating a home or homes. But nonetheless, these connections with the fourth house will be very prosperous for you, Sagittarius rising with retrograde, then Jupiter in Pisces. This is what you will have much in the way of compassion for. Then we will have Capricorn on the ascendant. And where is, at first, to start off for you, Capricorn rising, with Jupiter in Aries, but your fourth house. So, starting off the end of July until the end of October, your enthusiasm will be it will be continued with family and home and repairs. Anything that has to do with the home or around the home foundation will receive and benefit for much of your enthusiasm and zest and very sound Capricorn business sense. Who knows, for you, Capricorn, your focus could also be not just on real estate, but renovations. And with lucky, generous Jupiter there could be some reconnections with long lost family. And who knows, you could receive help from family, or you could be the one that is aiding and helping other family members when Jupiter starts off in your fourth house. Then, Capricorn rising, we've got Jupiter flipping back to your third house of communications. And with compassionate retrograde Pisces Jupiter your compassion then, believe it or not, Capricorn, will be about communications. It will be about possibly communicating with what personal interests that you had from the past. It may bring some familiar faces who you haven't communicated in some time back around you, because the third house is not just about the spoken word, it is about the written word. Also, right now with retrograde Jupiter in Pisces Capricorn, the third house, similar to the 11th house, is compassion. In this case, Jupiter and Pisces with the internet, social media, or you may become very involved in your vicinity, your neighbors now, or people around you, and have compassion for those that live around you. And also, the third house rules vehicles. So you right now might have a compassion for getting a new vehicle too. Uh, well, Jupiter is retrograde in Pisces, Capricorn rising. Then we've got Jupiter connected with Aquarius rising. So for you, Aquarius rising, Jupiter retrograde will be in your second house of income. Wow. So Aquarius rising, to start off, well, when it goes back into Pisces, that is, let me make that correction. To start off, you will have Jupiter and Aries. So for you, Aquarius rising, between July 28th and the end of October 2022, your enthusiasm will be connected with those within your vicinity, those that are close around you. Who knows? Maybe you're going to connect up with some new groups, and that can include in person, that can include social media. That's where your zest and your enthusiasm is going to be. Who knows? Maybe you'll do some public speaking. Aquarians are very unique and very original, and so you may dazzle many people with your brilliant Aquarius ideas. And who knows? Maybe you, Aquarius, will be very zestful towards that new vehicle that you are interested in. And who knows? Maybe you will express some of those unique Aquarian ideas thinking about starting a blog, social media, or that book that you put off from the past. Then we've got Jupiter that flips back into your second house of income and money. And with the past, with Jupiter retrograde, your thoughts may turn to opening up a savings account or a bank account now, collections, because we're talking about the past. Maybe there was a collection that you wanted to start. Or on the other hand, you may get involved or find something from history that fascinates you, because the second house is about what we value. And with Jupiter in compassionate uh, Pisces, you may have compassion for anything that deals with history, your personal history, family, although it is second house, but money. So right now it's about saving for that rainy day, but with generous Jupiter there, Aquarius rising, you will see your bank account grow nonetheless. And savings, investing even is going to become very prominent for you. However, do watch what you say because generous, outspoken, Jupiter in compassionate Pisces can make you either a little bit deceptive or confusing or very compassionate in your speech and what you have to say towards others. Then we've got Pisces on the ascendant. And for you, Pisces, we start off with Jupiter in your second house. And with Jupiter in your second house, your enthusiasm is going to be about starting a new savings account or a bank account or investing, or suddenly you will see your money grow through perhaps a job that you have, and you get a promotion or a raise. But nonetheless, this is a great time for you, Pisces rising, to see your bank account grow. And for you, especially with Pisces rising and retrograde Jupiter right now, Pisces, just be careful of what you say because Jupiter, when it is retrograde in Aries, is very direct and very outspoken. And in the second house of speech, you may have to just be careful about what you say because you're going to be very enthusiastic about telling people about your ideas and how you feel, especially regarding your values, your opinions with Jupiter in the second house. But nonetheless, even Jupiter in your second house, Pisces rising during this time, and as we go also into 2023, is going to be very prosperous for you. Now, Pisces rising, especially Pisces on the first house, once you have Jupiter in compassionate Pisces retrograde on your first house, yes, you're going to do a lot of inward soul searching. This is a very deep time for you because, especially when Neptune and Jupiter meet up during those last month when they are both retrograde, you may think about changing your appearance. You may think about really deeply going inward and not just doing soul searching, but you may really look inward to just decide what really means the most to you in life. Maybe these last months or years have been kind of a bit of a roller coaster ride to you. Jupiter, with Jupiter in Pisces in your first house, Pisces rising. It on one hand, it is giving you a, a lot of opportunity, generous Jupiter. But on the other hand, Jupiter is saying this is a time, uh, Pisces, when you must do a more deeper inward search to what makes you happy. It's about your personal philosophy. And Jupiter is about all forms of education, not just formal education, which who knows, Pisces rising, you might go back to school, but it's a time of learning from those that you admire, who are very wise. You may take on or connect with somebody who you believe is kind of a wise counselor, a guru, and kind of take up and follow them. That could be a friend, it could be a family member, or elsewise. But it is the time for you, Pisces rising, to really figure out what is making you happy. And with Jupiter in your first house, even retrograde Pisces rising, this will expand your life by leaps and bounds. And who knows, because you are compassionate Pisces, and with Neptune and Jupiter there, you may be sought out by many who seek your kind, loving, compassionate heart. So there you have it. That is Jupiter retrograde between July 28th, 2022, and then it flips back into Pisces the end of October, the 27th, until the end of the year in November. And what an insightful time we will have with Jupiter retrograde, and a time to gain much in the way of inner wisdom and knowledge.